Hello, my name is Andrew Rockwell, and this is the overview of my melee attack mechanic. So, the basics of the mechanic are when you hit left click, the player will play an attack animation, and when you right click and hold, you'll block. By right clicking and holding, you will become impervious to taking damage, and once you stop, the animation will stop. Upon killing an enemy, you will see that it the death animation and a sound, or after a delay of 7.5 seconds, disappearing. Now then, let's go over how this works in detail. The basic thing that happens is the attack custom event, which is when the player left clicks, it will trigger this event. The first thing it does is it checks if the player is dead, which is toggled later on. This will go to a branch, which I made to see if the player is already attacking, which will set the boolean that they are attacking. This comes into play later on, as there is a delay, so that way the player can't spam attacks, and therefore overwhelm the enemy just by spamming a flurry of attacks without any reasonable delay or cooldown between them. Upon the check that it is false for them attacking and it being set, it will end up playing one of the two animation montages for the attacks, and it will carry on. So how does the hit react work? Well, the first thing it will do is it'll check if they are blocking. If they're not already blocking, it'll check if they're getting hit. Because later on we have it so that way if they're getting hit, they can't just immediately be spammed by attacks and die instantly that way. So that's why we check for why it is getting hit. Supposing both of those are false, it will set that they are indeed getting hit, and it will go to the mesh. And just like before, it'll play one of the two different being hit animation montages before moving on to the death event, which we'll cover briefly. But once it's done and the player has been hit, it will subtract 25 points from their health, which will decrease it, and in 4 hits, they will be dead. It'll play a getting hurt sound effect, and then there's a delay between that before setting that the player is no longer getting hit. Now then, how does death work? So when death is called beforehand, the first thing it will do is it'll check if the player has 0 or less health. From there, it will check, are they already dead? And supposing they're not already dead, it will play another animation montage, playing one of the two death animations, and then it will disable the movement, so that way the player character or any enemies who have died can't move around and continue trying to do things even though they're dead. Once that's been completed, it will play a sound at their location to show that the player has died, and a way of communicating to the player that they or an enemy NPC has died, and then there will be a delay of 7.5 seconds, after which it will check if the player has died or an enemy has died. If an enemy has died, we don't want the end of game screen to show up, as the player has to kill quite a few enemies, so then it will simply destroy that actor. But if it is the player, then the end game widget will appear on screen, and we do all the stuff needed to set that up by getting the level name and setting it up like we would regularly set up the end game widget. Then we add to the viewport and make the mouse work so that way the player can hit the reset button and continue on. The last part of this mechanic is the block feature, as when the player hits the right mouse button and they hold it down, it will set that the player is blocking and play the blocking montage. And as soon as they release it, they will no longer be considered blocking and can take damage once again. And from there, they will stop the animation montage and put the shield down. I hope you enjoyed this overview of my mechanic, and have a good day.